Alright everyone, every time his enemies try to deplatform him, it just makes him stronger anyway, so I'm sure that he's actually mildly happy about this. But Tommy Robinson being targeted now by the deputy leader of his own country's Labour Party, it's very funny to me. Here you've got a UK in which it's apparently now considered normal for elected officials to be attempting to prevent private citizens over there, including those like Robinson, engaged in actual journalism, like legitimate accredited journalism. It's very interesting that it's considered perfectly acceptable by these people to try to remove the ability to speak, completely deperson their own citizens. I think we've isolated the cause of why Robinson and other people like him are becoming more prominent. Like, I think, didn't Dankula just literally get hired by BBC Scotland or something? And they were all up in arms. They're like, oh, this evil Nazi pug racist criminal is getting hired. It's a terrible day. It's like, if you look at what he actually believes in, he's like a leftist for the most part. He's a leftist that was making jokes, and you plunged him into the political arena largely thereafter the fact because of your opportunistic bitching about the fact that he had made the Nazi pug video. He's not a racist. He's clearly not. He makes one joke in his whole existence, which he has a plausible explanation for anyway, and everyone acts like he's the next, Heinrich Himmler or something. With Tommy Robinson, it's like, here you have a member, a fairly high-ranking member of the Labour Party, within the UK's government, saying, well, he's a violent racist and stuff like this. Again, can I please get a quote from any source where he's saying violently racist things? He's coming out saying, well, Instagram and Facebook banned him, huzzah, now we've got to pressure Google to do the same. Apparently he sent off a letter, like an official political letterhead from the Labour Party there in his role in Parliament or whatever. He sends that off to fucking Sundar Pichai, Google's CEO. By the way, you do realize that Sundar, while Google owns YouTube, YouTube is predominantly managed by Susan, the CEO of YouTube, is not really subjugated directly in many ways to Google. You do realize that, right? You sent the letter off to the wrong person, you fucking moron, number one. Number two, it is astonishing to me that the number of people who just passively absorb and accept the idea that Yaxley Lennon, oh my god, evil Tommy Robinson, is like some sort of violent criminal or something. Again, where is the actual evidence of these allegations? None of the news stories even talking about it give a quote. They just say, well, he's talking badly about Islam. That's not hateful. It's certainly not a call for violence or an incitement to violence of his many, many fans. And by trying to deplatform him, look, you're causing alt tech to grow. What Silicon Valley and the banking system are doing is not what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. We've seen this over and over throughout human communications, politics, sociopolitics, geopolitics, everything under the sun that involves human beings, especially with regards to the way they communicate. If something is suppressed improperly, it just grows in size. And even if you manage to wipe it out, like they wiped out the Gnostics or something, it comes back later. It has a resurgence after the current paradigm's done. Sometimes it doesn't even take a few decades. We've seen this over and over again. It's like Wicca. They tried to suppress that. What happens now? They're saying, oh yeah, like 2% of the Western population practices some form of witchcraft now. Yeah, there's several million witches in the United States and millions more in Europe. Yeah, good. The Burning Times, it really worked really well. The Satanic Panic and all these things. You look at like the McCarthyist era. We need to stop communism. Yeah, all these commie nations one by one fell under their own weight because communism sucks. But then all of a sudden, you get a bunch of people in Western Europe who never experienced it, who have a weird nostalgia for tankydom or something. Don't bother suppressing things, it won't work. And by the way, censorship has never been used for good in the history of mankind. Show me one example in thousands of years of recorded history where an element of censorship, whether by a state or by a private entity, was ever used for any but the most malevolent of purposes. I will wait and sit here until I'm a grinning skeleton because it has never actually happened. All attempts, every time there's an attempt, every time that they try to push censorship, they say, well, it's for the children, it's for the benefit of society, it's for stability's sake, it's for peace. It's just sort of like bombing for peace is like fucking for virginity. It's the same basic idea. It can never work. It's like the ring of power. Oh, yeah, but I can use it for good. No, you can't. No, and this dude, Tom Watson, so a rich, bought-off politician representing the corporatized so-called labor movement in the UK, which is really just a socialist party at this point. Yes, you want to censor a private citizen because mean and scary. Show me some elements of violence that have been caused by his rhetoric. Like where people said, oh yeah, I punched this ethnic-looking person because of Tommy Robinson. Show me examples of this. Show me an example of a post he actually made on Facebook. Not just, well, he made posts that incited violence. Okay, that's your claim. Show me the post that thus violated those rules. Facebook wasn't forthcoming with them. Instagram wasn't forthcoming, and these are both Zuckerberg aspects. If YouTube bans him, it won't be because he said violent things, it'll be because of pressure from other people. It's about time we start getting together and push pressure in the other direction, against censorship. And Google is the greatest place to start because it's the most communicative, number one, with its audience. Number two, it appears to be the most resistant to censorship. Facebook and Instagram, I wouldn't even fucking lift a finger. I'm not even going to bother talking about it. Facebook's a dying platform. Instagram's by the same fucking people that run Facebook. It's going to be censored. Zuckerberg, in a native sense, was always on board with censorship. They used to censor anti-war posts if they showed anything too gruesome. Oh my God, we don't want the people at home to see what's actually happening in Iraq. We don't want zeitgeist to spread around the platform. Oh my God, people might question the war effort or something. Back then, we don't want lesbians kissing on our platform. You do realize that not even 10 years ago, the element of moralism that was online was like far right, right? At least in the evangelical sense. I don't really call that conservative. It's just sort of an aberrant, moralistic, authoritarian offshoot of, you know, it's like a cancerous growth on the right hip of the right. Dear God. So here you have a politician. How do the British people feel about the fact that elected officials over there who are being funded by the people at large are attempting to prevent their fellow private citizens from engaging in journalism? Then you had some trade union over there that's like, well, we need to kick him out of public spaces as well and like constantly protest and harass him. Is this really okay for a so-called free, Western, civilized nation to be acting in this way? This is the sort of activity you would normally see in the deep third world in a tin horn dictatorship. Oh, this group of people is like malcontent and shit, so we're not going to let them do commerce. They can't get... This is what they're doing it in China. There are millions of people in China who can't even get aboard a plane right now because of the social credit score system. The proportion of people that have been like blacklisted and abused and deplatformed and censored in some way over here is probably bigger than the number of people in China. Doesn't that worry you a little bit that, you know, you're saying, well, we're not quite as censored, not quite as dystopian police state bullshit crackdown mode as communist China is. Again, 10 years ago, that would have been considered totally unacceptable. It was a contrast. They have censorship and fascism, basically, after a fashion. You know, pardon that double. And they're commies, and the state tells you what you can think and what you can do and censors and moderates everything. Over here, people speak freely, and that's a good thing. It's virtuous. Now, all of a sudden, they've got a bunch of soccer moms concerned about that very element of freedom as though it was a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. Too much freedom can never be a bad thing. Censorship always is a bad thing. You're asking multi-billion-dollar corporations that have their hands in every political and fiscal arena around the world are tied at the hip with predatory national and multinational banks. You're asking them to determine what right and wrong are? Their idea of right is essentially, in the purest form, going to be whatever's best for their wallet. They are opportunistic. They're corporations. They're for-profit businesses. They can't operate any other way. If they did, then it wouldn't be proper. In fact, they should operate that way. And the proper operation of the people at large is to resist that pole of power and constrain it, using the law. We've already got laws against monopolies. In some states, it is already illegal to discriminate based on political affiliation and ideals, where otherwise not criminal. It's already illegal what Silicon Valley is doing. And then you have people, look, foreign collusion. Oh my God, the Russians bought Facebook posts. Look, we have the deputy leader of a foreign political party is attempting to pressure U.S. firms into censoring a citizen there. Now, whenever this happens from Turkey or Saudi Arabia or Iran, when they pressure the U.S. firms to crack down on dissidents, those firms, number one, don't do it generally. Number two, when it comes to public light, there is huge outcry. Oh my God, this is America. We're not supposed to bend over for the House of Saud. Shame on you if you do. We put pressure on them. To prevent violent religious zealots from exacting a toll on U.S. firms, we attempt to coerce them into not listening to foreign state entities or non-state actors. Religious groups are saying, like, please silence this dissident that caused problems here in Turkey. No, we can't do that. You know, free speech. It's a dissident over here, not in your country. Leave us alone. And Twitter's the only one that really bends over backwards. Like, they bend over backwards for Erdogan every other day, and then when they don't, Erdogan shuts Twitter off till they, you know, basically bend over and suck him off because Jack Dorsey is a coward. Google traditionally has not done that. Really, Apple and Twitter are the main problem makers. Even Facebook and Instagram have been resistant to that. Except in cases like this, where it's the British government asking for that. It's not. It's a government that's more closely tied with our internet, and so we have to listen. No, you don't have to listen to them. Make it clear, like you see YouTube and Google mobilizing against Article 13. We don't want this globalistic sort of tech pressure from the EU. Okay, well then you're already being pressured by the British government too. So it looks like Facebook and Instagram bent over. So I would challenge YouTube, no, you shouldn't kick Tommy Robinson off. Show me one example of him breaching TOS. Criticizing Islam doesn't breach the TOS. Saying that there's a problem with the police sheltering criminals in the UK, which is objectively true, is not a breach of TOS. Calling out the labor movement for its rabid stupidity is not a breach of TOS. What they're really concerned about is the fact that Tommy Robinson now has a bigger overall audience than a lot of slots on the BBC and has an inordinate amount of support. He has more support than most political figures within the UK. They are fucking terrified of him. I'd be terrified too if I was part of the establishment. It's just like over here when they want to kick like Gavin or Milo off. There's a reason for that. There's a reason they don't want InfoWars to talk. Because, you know, the alt media is winning. And it's going to keep winning. Like, I've got another video I have to make today about dissenter. It's like how they, in less than 24 hours, they defeated Washington Post's stupid idea of censorship. And it was really, really funny. That'll be the next video I make. That's about all. Peace out.